Have you ever had that feeling that tiny little mistakes are costing you some serious points on the IELTS? Well, you are definitely not alone. In this explainer, we're going to dig into some of the most common traps people fall into, and we'll turn those tricky details into some easy score boosters. So let's just dive right in.
I know. It sounds like the beginning of a really weird joke, right? But what if I told you that these three seemingly random things are actually all secretly connected to your IELTS score? They're all about those tiny little details that examiners pick up on right away. Any ideas what the connection is?
You guessed it. It all comes down to the details. Each one of these topics hides a really common mistake, a score killer, if you will, that can totally hold you back. But here's the good news. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. So let's start flipping these mistakes into major score boosters right now.
Okay, first up, we've got a classic one, using the word the with places. Getting this right shows a much higher level of grammar, and the rule behind it is actually way more logical than you might think. So, what's your gut feeling on this one? Do we say the Alps or just Alps? I mean, it's just one tiny word, but believe me, it makes a difference. This is a perfect example of the rule we're about to break down. So here it is, the simple secret. You use the when you're talking about groups. Think mountain ranges like the Alps, or island chains. But if it's just a single, standalone thing, like one mountain or one country, you usually don't need the. It's basically a many versus one kind of deal.
And this is where the pattern really becomes clear. See, the Himalayas is a whole group of mountains, but Mount Everest is just one peak. The United Kingdom is a plural concept, a group of nations, but Japan is a single country. This logic works for single lakes and squares, too. Once you see it that way, it just clicks.
All right, let's move on. Next up is a really subtle change that can make your writing sound way more academic, like instantly. And it's not about using bigger words, not at all. It's all about where you put one simple kind of word, the adverb.
So check out the difference here. In just, everyday conversation, you might say, prices sharply rose. Totally fine. But for academic writing, just flipping it to prices rose sharply sounds so much more formal and polished. It's a tiny little switch, but it has a huge impact on your tone.
Now, these words are basically your best friends for writing task 1. To describe a big change, you're going to want to use words like dramatically or steeply. For slower trends, you've got gradually or steadily. But the key thing to remember is the rule we just learned. Put them after the verb. The number increased dramatically. See? Simple and really effective. Okay, next up is a vocabulary mix-up that trips up so many people in both the speaking and the writing sections. It seems pretty simple, but using go versus do with shopping completely changes the meaning.
So when you say let's go shopping, what you're really talking about is a fun activity. It's about browsing for clothes, looking at new gadgets, or just enjoying the day out. This is shopping for fun, not for needs.
On the other hand, when you do the shopping, it's a chore. It's that routine task of buying groceries, toilet paper, all the household essentials. And notice the word the. That little word signals that this is a regular, recurring job. Getting this right, especially when you're talking about your routine in the speaking test, is a fantastic way to show off your vocabulary precision.
And this idea of precision is absolutely crucial for writing task 1. We've talked about adverbs, but now let's look at the tiny words that hold your data descriptions together. I'm talking about prepositions and discourse markers. Because if you get these wrong, you can really confuse your reader, and that's going to lower your score.
Oh man, this is such a common mistake. Just look at this table. The only correct way to describe a range is from X to Y. So sales increased from 15% to 28%. Using words like until or at here, it's just wrong, and it's going to cost you points for accuracy. It's such a simple rule to just memorize and use every time.
Okay, and think of these words here as signposts. They're what guide your reader through all the data. They show where you're starting, where you're changing direction, and what the reader should really be paying attention to. When you use them correctly, your writing just has a much clearer, more logical structure. It just flows better.
And for our last section, let's switch gears to the speaking test. We need to talk about how to stop giving those short, unhelpful answers in part 1 so you can actually show the examiner what you can do.
Right. So here's the thing you have to remember. The examiner isn't just looking for a correct answer. They're trying to figure out how well you can communicate. A simple yes or no gives them basically nothing to grade you on. Your goal should always be to give a natural 2- or 3-sentence response.
A really fantastic way to structure your answer is the ARE method. It's super easy to remember. First, you answer the question directly. Then you give a reason, using a word like because. And finally, you add a quick example or maybe some extra detail. If you follow this simple little formula, you're pretty much guaranteed to give a full, fluent answer every single time.
So there you have it. From using the with mountain ranges to the ARE method in the speaking test, we've seen how focusing on these small, specific details can have a massive and immediate impact on your overall IELTS score. It's all about working smarter, not just harder.
And that just leaves us with one last thought. Knowledge is great, but it's only powerful when you actually use it. So looking back at everything we've just covered, which one of these details are you going to focus on and really master first? Thanks so much for joining me.